Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Haunted 8, the October deck in the King's Wild Shorts line. Now, King's Wild Shorts is the monthly subscription from King's Wild Project and designer Jackson Robinson. And it's a lot of fun. Every single month you get a uniquely inspired deck of cards, a completely original design from Jackson Robinson. It's where he lets his creativity run wild and produces some of the most inspired designs out of everything that he does. And given the prolific nature of his designs, I think that's really saying something. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. But this month, it's actually a little bit of a throwback. Haunted 8 was originally produced back in 2018, the very first year of King's Wild Shorts. Back then, the decks were limited to just 144, so getting your hands on one of the originals is a difficult task. I don't have one myself, so I was excited to finally get to check the deck out in person with the 2020 version. So let's jump into it and find out more. Now, being the October deck, it is of course inspired by Halloween and meant to be a kind of creepy, fun deck for the season. The front of the tuck itself is done in kind of a glossy finish tuck, and it's covered with foiling and embossing. The foiling is a completely new addition for the 2020. Really spices up the overall tuck case. Like the original, it's designed to look like a kind of decrepit or ornate door. You can see the wood grain in the back, and then all of the details are done in that metallic foil. Both silver and gold combine to form just a series of flourishes and scroll work all the way through, including the central element with the Haunted 8 deck name in the center. When you zoom in, you can see all that detail and the nice little addition of blood spatters all the way through, just to give some extra flavor to the deck. But beautiful bordering on this one. And then as you look really closely at the corner, you'll see that there's a kind of a almost neon green border. It gives it a little bit of a glow. Very subtle, but I think adds a nice little extra touch to the deck. So that's the front of the tuck. On the sides, you've got King's Wild Project, and of course it's the October 2020 deck, all done in brilliant foil yet again. And same thing on the other side. And then the bottom has your ad copy for Jackson Robinson. Of course, includes his signature Bible verse, 1 Thessalonians 4:11. And you can see these are printed by the Expert Playing Card Company in China. That's become much more frequent. I think that's lately been the factory that Jackson's used the most for his decks, especially the ornate ones that include foiling. On the top, there's one more mention of King's Wild Project, and the back gives you a foiled and embossed version of the back design of the cards. We'll look at that in a second, but you can really see how that foil shines on here. You have on the inner flap number 13, another staple on Jackson Robinson's decks. And on the inside, this is an interesting touch. It says, no matter where you go in life, in the end you will die. Now, the Haunted 8 deck overall is actually a little bit of a spiritual successor, if you will, to the Crazy 8s deck that Jackson Robinson also did. A much more lighthearted, almost Willy Wonka feeling deck. So interesting parallels between the Crazy 8s and the Haunted 8s deck. But this saying right here, no matter where you go in life, in the end you will die, is actually a nod to the Ace of Spades from that original Crazy 8s deck, where it said, no matter where you go in life, there you are. So that phrase has been replaced with a little bit darker, no matter where you go, in the end you will die. So interesting kind of callback to the deck that partially inspired some of this. And then you get a nice interior printing as well, with some red, orange and black striping all the way down. Very fitting for the Halloween season. So that's the tuck. Definitely a really thick cardboard that's used on this one, and a really beautiful design overall. I will warn you, if you're picking this up, it is definitely a thicker tuck compared to most, and that's to fit the much thicker cards that go with it. So just be warned if you pick this up. Won't fit like in a standard DS1 case or anything like that. But there you go. That is the tuck. Let's take a look at the cards. And here's the back design, another element that's really been amped up with the heavy use of foil. So very similar to the tuck case. It's designed to look like kind of a wood panel or a door in the background. You can see that brown wood panel in the back, or the wood grain, and then it's covered with those decorative elements, including 4 pseudo spade pips, I guess you would say, that meet in the center in kind of a cross shape, and then lots of flourishes and extras all the way around right to the border. It's really bright, really vibrant. I'll say it's definitely a stunning look with all that foil. It can be a little bit distracting just with that much foil, but I think it really does add an interesting element to the overall deck. So there's your back design. Finishes out with kind of a weathered parchment colored poker border, and yet again you get a little bit of that neon green bordering to give the deck a little bit of a mysterious or ethereal glow to it overall. So there's the back design. Nice thin borders around the edge. So really like it, and really interesting use of foil on these. Now into the deck, and starting with the extra cards. So here's the 2 extras, and these, like a lot of the cards, are just like what you'll see on the original deck. They feature a scarecrow complete with the jack-o'-lantern face, perched up in a field there. The whole thing is done again with that outline of green for the extra glow that it gives it. They're identical other than the red and black stars in the corner. There's your 2 jokers. And into the deck. We'll start with the Ace of Spades, the Power Ace. Features the big Haunted 8 logo against a wood panel background on that nice large spade pit, and then lots of gold elements bordering it. The border at the bottom, or the banner at the bottom, illustrated by Jackson Robinson, and then King's Wild Project credited at the bottom again. You get kind of a Gothic style pip and index in the corner, again bordered with green. Everything in this deck kind of picks up that greenish glow from that. And as you go to the number pips, you'll see those are custom as well, given that sort of jagged style to them, or maybe a Gothic style, but interesting extra little custom pips, that black outlined in green again, and same style on the pip and index in the corner as well. Pretty standard layouts, nice smaller pips on these. Sometimes Jackson will do much larger, fatter pips, but these aren't those. And then you get into the quartz, and these are beautifully done. Definitely the highlight of the deck in my opinion. They're pseudo classically styled quartz. You can see they sort of started out as classic quartz, but they've been redesigned with a definite Halloween flair to them. The two-way quartz all feature, characters that are nominally dressed kind of as their bicycle counterparts would be, but all of the extra elements kind of really amp it up. You've got this sort of zombie looking creature complete with a pain on his head and that menacing hunting knife as the jack, or that zombie queen complete with the dying flower in her hand, and then the zombie fighting king with the Walking Dead inspired bat in his hands. I like the touch of giving him the gas mask, just like the King's Wild logo as well. So very fun look overall to the cards. And I'll say the style is reminiscent of the style used kind of going back to that Crazy Eights deck that I mentioned a couple of times. Here's the court style for the Crazy Eights, and you can see the art style is that kind of raw sketch look to it that you can sort of see where it borrows from maybe cards that are inspired by or enhanced from the original Crazy Eights deck. So just an interesting kind of comparison of the two styles. So there's your spade quartz. Into the diamonds, they're going to be more of the same, those jagged style pips, all outlined in green, that nice ethereal glow to all of them. And then into the diamond court cards. Very fun. I love the expressions from the sort of mischievous, knowing grin on the jack's face, or the sort of evil cackling going on with the queen. So very expressive faces on all these. Love all the little details and the color schemes on these. Just really, really well done quartz. There's your club quartz. And then going to your club number cards. And there's the look at the club pips. And then into the heart quartz. And the King of Hearts is probably my favorite of the quartz. It's a nice touch to have the suicidal king who's actually finished the job and completely cut off the head, And so he's got the jack-o'-lantern head in his hand, sort of Ichabod Crane style. Very nice. This is definitely my favorite of the courts. I also like the Jack of Hearts done Jason style with the mask and dagger. So very cool. Nods all the way through, and just details you can appreciate all the way through the courts. And then down through the heart number cards and finishing with the Ace of Hearts. So that is the deck. Now, as far as handling, I will say for me, especially with the cards printed by Expert lately from Kings Wild, there have definitely been some issues with handling, but I was really pleasantly surprised to see that these actually handle really, really well. Given that they're foiled and given what I've seen from a few of the other Expert decks in the past, it was a really pleasant surprise to see how smoothly these fan and how well they handle. And those metallic looks from the backs really get a chance to shine when you use this in a fan. So I don't know if Expert is just improving the game, if this was just a one-off where they happen to do a little bit better on this deck, but kudos to Expert for really kind of stepping it up with the handling. It's definitely a thicker card. The entire deck is thicker. So if you're going to use this like in springs or dribbles, it's going to be a little bit harder to use. It's usable but tough with the thickness of these cards. So depending on what you want to use it for, handling wise, these, while much better in terms of the smoothness, are going to have some limitations because of that thickness. So what do you think of the deck overall? Well, with any of the Kings Wild shorts, they're going to be great as a collector's item, but I think these would be a really fun deck to use for gameplay as well, especially around the Halloween season. Bring those out for poker night. These will really kind of amp it up, give it a little bit of extra fun. Definitely a little bit custom to want to use for game or for Magic. And despite what I said about the handling being surprisingly good, still probably not a cardistry deck by any means. So I think gameplay or collectors, that's really going to be the forte for this deck. Now, this is the standard version of the deck. That's actually one of only 3 different versions. I don't get the gilded version of the deck, which is the most exclusive version, but I do get the limited version, and you can see that one here. Now, it has the same cards inside, so I'm not going to show those. In fact, I don't usually open my limited deck, but it does include a completely redone tuck. This one is a color change to do more sort of metallics, just silver and gray feel to it overall. So very different feel overall on the tucks. And you'll see from the little tombstone shaped sticker here at the bottom that these are numbered out of 500. So that's the other version of the deck, the limited. There's also a gilded, same cards, but gilded edges. I don't get that particular version, so don't have that one to show you. But that is it. That is the look at Haunted 8 from Kings Wild Project. Now, if you like what you see here, the standard version is actually available on Jackson's website now, so go grab one for yourself. I'll put a link down in the description where you can do that. But for now, hope you enjoyed this look at the Haunted 8 deck. Let me know down in the comments what else you want to see, and make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.